Welcome to the Hobby Jogger podcast, where elite athletes and ham and eggers lace up their stories. We explore the common ground that running creates, from the world-class runner to the hobbyist hitting the pavement, trail, or treadmill. Expect a blend of inspiration, laughter, and the shared joy that makes every step count. Join us on this journey where every run is a story worth sharing. Welcome to this week's episode of the Hobby Jogger, where I am joined by a very special co-host, my good friend, my running partner, Kim Roy.
Hey, Casey. I'm happy to be here finally.
Happy to have you on the show. You've recently survived the Bloodroot Ultra in Vermont.
I did. Yes, that was in the beginning of May. About 7,000 vertical feet. Did it. It was great. Vermont is a beautiful state.
Yeah, you and your boyfriend Grant ran that together, and we had a
Yes.
hell of a time up there in, is it the cheese state? The ice cream state, maybe. I don't know what they call it. But it was
The Green Mountain State.
okay. It was the Green Mountain State, which is awesome. Beautiful place. Well, Kim, today we are joined by our friend, Marianna Grudziak. She is Polish. She's a Yinzer, and she's about to take on Western States. Marianna, welcome to the Hobby Jogger.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. We recently got to see you out at Laurel Highlands a little bit.
Yep.
That was pretty cool. You had a nice training run, I guess. We got to run some miles together.
We sure did. I had a very specific plan for that race, and you tried to derail it, and I stuck to my plan. So,
well, my plan was to go very easy the first 20 miles.
Same.
And I just figured, your training run of easy was probably my race pace. So we were probably matched up there.
That was also my plan. It was to stay easy, like 100-mile pace for the first 20, and then I was allowed to race it. Well, it was supposed to be easy for the first half, but I got put on antibiotics the day before, was feeling like a little weird. So I was like, I'm just going to get through that crappy climb at mile 19, and then we'll see what happens. So.
Yeah, it was tough. Kim ran the first leg.
Yep.
I did. That is probably one of the most challenging runs ever. I ran that twice, and it is by far the most challenging runs, just from the technical nature of the trail, as well as obviously the elevation. It's just tough. I thought it was tougher than Vermont, personally.
That's legit. Yeah, it doesn't get any easier, I think, the more you run it.
No, it maybe even gets a little bit more difficult because you feel a little bit more comfortable in my situation. Then you face plant and go real bad after that. But no, it's a great training ground, and you being local to it, I'm sure it has to give you a lot more confidence going into Western states.
For sure. The only thing about training like in PA is that the trails at Western are like butter. And Western PA is not. I've actually been trying to hit like more fire roads and things that are like smoother and more sustained. Now that I've been out to like the Western States course, and that was like at the suggestion of my coach too, because like the technical nature of Laurel. I mean, it's runnable. I've run that 70-mile race so many times, and I stand by the fact that you can run most of the miles there if you are a decent trail runner, but like it's not Western in terms of Western's not that technical, which I'm pretty excited about. It's also like a new type of race for me, so we'll see what happens. But the climbing definitely is a good warm-up.
Yeah, a lot of climbing there. And real quick, just for listeners that aren't familiar with Western states, I'm just going to give a quick synopsis of the race. It is a 100-mile ultra that's held out in California, and it's the world's oldest 100-mile trail race. It runs from Olympic Valley near the site of the 1960 Winter Olympics. It ends in Auburn, California. There's about 18,000 feet of climbing, descends 23,000 feet. So it is a net loss. A lot of downhill running, really beats up the quads. And really one of, I guess, in the trail world here in the U.S., definitely one of our most historic races. A little bit older, I guess, than Laurel Highlands, which you're very familiar with. So pretty cool. Awesome that you got in. And before we get into the training aspect of it, how did you start this journey to Western States? Where did this lead up? How many years ago? where does your story for Western States begin?
So I got into ultra running probably like 10 years ago. I was kind of like the normal story. I was a soccer player in high school. I was getting recruited for college for D1, ended up tearing my ACL. Yeah, that was like my junior year. And then I needed to have a revision my senior year of high school. So I was pretty beat down and I was like, well, screw soccer. Because when you're like 16 and you go through pretty major injury and then you don't bounce back like you're supposed to, it kind of beats you down. And so I went to college, had fun. And then I was like, okay, I need something to challenge myself with because I was kind of missing that aspect of getting my energy out, but also, working towards a goal. So I started running just roads and then ran the half marathon after I actually had another healthcare setback. I had a blood clot in my arm after traveling to my home country of Poland. I had to have a rib removed because it was like causing the clot to happen. I was like, okay, well, I almost died, so let's go do something more interesting with my life. And then I started trail running. And like you introduced, I was pretty local to Pittsburgh and the Laurel Highlands. And that's actually where I started trail running. So that area is very, very near and dear to my heart. And yeah, actually Laurel Highlands 50K, I think in 14 maybe, was my second 50K race ever.
When we were running together, we discussed you are a graduate of the Beadling FC, Beadling Football Club in
Yep.
South Hills of Pittsburgh. We do have a mutual friend, Kelly Trax, correct?
Yep.
Of Trax
Correct.
Farm. So shout out Kelly.
Great strawberries.
Great strawberries, sweet wine fest, Kim, if we're ever out there. It's pretty cool.
Like sweet wine or like sweet, like cool wine fest?
Like cool sweet, Kim. Like I don't know my wines and such. So yeah, cool wine fest. It's a very cool farm they have. Yeah. So you took the soccer route. It has been discussed in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Also shot down every single time I brought it up that I think soccer players make better ultra runners. So you at least hold true for my theory. So I appreciate that, Marianna. Thank you very much.
And I was a sprinter, just like when you guys talked to Bryn on the last episode. I was the queen of the 100, the 200, and the anchor of the 4x1, and never really ventured into like long distance running until way later because it was always like a punishment, like for soccer. But like I played outside mid, so I could run far. Like I could run for 90 minutes and I was fine, but I just needed like a goal. And I think that's where like trail running falls into that because road running I could not do. Like I get so bored. I need an adventure. So after I ran like my first 50K, I mean I was a lot slower than I am now. I think I ran my first 50K after I had my ankle reconstructed. So that's like on top of an ACL reconstruction and all of the things. So I was a very back of the pack runner and then kind of like learned about Western States. I think I'm lucky like that I started off in the Laurel Highlands scene and like that very like grassroots race that's, near and dear to like a lot of the locals. And then like more and more people are learning about it and understanding how cool of an area and how like amazing of a race that is. And just kind of like Western States, like it's been around for 45 years. Western States, I think, is just hit 50. So it's just like that historic kind of, you're in the woods, it's rugged. The people are what make the race and the trail makes the race. And so obviously like after I did the 50K there, I was like, oh, there's a 70-mile option. There's like no way I could ever run 70 miles. And then I signed up for it because, it used to be a mail-in registration and it was really cool because you sent your check and the only way you knew that you were in was when your check got cashed. So that was like another really, really cool aspect of the race. And, like, I think back then when I first ran it, the Western States qualifying time was like 18 hours and now it's 20. So the first couple years I did it, I was like definitely like in the 20s, pretty slow. But like every year I ran it, I got faster. And I know the old race director, he would always be like, why are you coming back to this? Like, it's such a tough race. Like, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know, I love it. And I keep getting better at this sport. So like, why not? So then I think I finally got my first like ticket in 2019, maybe, or 2018, one of those years. And, you enter the lottery and you're like, well, I'm going to watch the lottery because, I'm totally not going to get picked, but I'll still watch it. And it's really cool. Didn't get picked. And then I've entered every year since, except for, I think, 2022. I was back in like PA school and things just didn't go as planned with like training. But thankfully, since COVID, there was a bye year, because it used to be you had to like enter sequential times to like have your ticket count multiplied. But I think I got in with 8 tickets this year. So here we are.
And it looks like most of your tickets came from Laurel Highlands, correct?
I've actually run a bunch of other qualifiers. Like last year I ran Black Canyon as well. Got a ticket there. And then I actually did run Twisted Branch, but I ended up DNFing. I had really bad back spasms after taking my boards for PA school. And I just like, I threw in it at mile 30. I was getting like, I had a good 30 miles, but I just like could not activate my left glute. And I was like, this is not worth it. I already had 2 tickets. And I mean, I was going to Portugal the next day. So I was like, meh. But I still entered usually using my Laurel ticket. I kept true to that, but I have run a lot more qualifiers than just Laurel. You can only put in 1 ticket a year, but once you've applied 3 years in a row, your tickets start to multiply. That's how people have like 256 tickets or like 64 tickets.
Yeah, I learned that when I looked up Andrew Glaze's ticket total. I was like, why doesn't this like 790 tickets? He runs these a year. And then you only get 1 a year. I found
exactly. Like you can only use 1 qualifying race a year to get 1 ticket. Okay, so the first year you get 1 ticket, and then the next year you have to run a different race. And if you get a qualifying time in that race, then you would have 2 tickets. But the third year, it's like N to the N minus 1 ticket or something. So it's actually 4 tickets the next year. Your ticket count multiplies, if that makes sense. And then the 4th year, you would have 8 tickets.
And I have to enter every year, correct? To keep the tickets? Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only, Kim, for me to run Western States, so I have to run 100 miles. I actually have to put myself out there to enter the race.
Right. And it looks like they only allow 375 entrants.
Correct.
The probability of you getting selected this year, I remember us talking about it. What did you say the probability was?
I think it was like 5%. There were 50,000 tickets. And actually you only get, I think there's only 270 spots that are in the drawing, because the rest are like the professional athletes that either were top 10 male, female last year, or the ones that won golden tickets. And then I know like sponsors like Hoka and Goo and some of the companies that sponsor, they also have like a couple spots that they'll like give out to people that work for them or community members or whatever. And I know some of the aid stations, people that have done a lot of work for the trail or for the race, also have like some allotted spots. So really it's only like 270 spots that are in the lottery. So yeah, 50,000 tickets. I had 8. I think it was like a 5% chance. And I'm not like a person that wins any sort of drawings ever. I was like, I should probably go buy a lottery ticket.
So when you were selected, were you like, oh crap? Or were you like, all right, let's go?
So I was actually, I've watched, I don't know if you're familiar, but they like have a lottery at the high school auditorium on YouTube that's broadcast like during this drawing. And I've watched every year that I've entered. And like, I know one person that got in that never watched. And like, I actually let her know that she got in. So I was like, you know what? This is the year I'm not going to watch. I'm going to go about my day. My friend came to visit me. We were just like out doing like Christmas shopping because the drawing's like in December. And like, she's a person that's been around. She's one of my best friends. She's going to be there. She's going to be 7 months pregnant. When she found out she was pregnant, she's like, no, I have to go to Western State. I was like,
is she crewing for you or no?
She is, but like she has like, she's gonna be there. We're not putting any pressure on her, like wherever she can make it. I have enough crew that I'm good, but like she's coming. I'm so stoked. So she was with me, and like she's like, well, how will you know if like you get it? And I was like, Julie, shut up. We're not talking about this. Like, we're just going to go find coffee. Like, let's go. So we're just going about our day and, and then we're like at a store and I check my phone just to like try to find directions to get somewhere. I swipe up and I have like 10 texts that are all uppercase letters, like exclamation points, all this, like, and they're only from people that trail run. And I was like, oh my God, like, no way, it's not. And then I swipe up and everyone's like, you're going to States, like, congrats. Like, I was like, oh my God. So then I look up from my phone and I was like, yo, and she's like, no, shut up. And I was like, uh-huh. And we just like started crying. So that was how I found out. But I was like, let's go. But also a little bit of like fear because I've only run one other 100-mile race in my life.
Hey folks, if you're loving the stories, tips, and laughs we're dishing out, make sure you don't miss an episode. Hit that subscribe button so you're the first to know when a new episode drops. And hey, if you've got a second, why not leave us a review? Your feedback helps us improve and keeps this running community growing. Lace up, hit subscribe, and let's get back into the show. That's awesome. That's such a cool way to get in and just, realizing that you've got in. And I did watch, Will and I watched the stream this year.
Yeah.
Since we did have our one ticket in, and neither one of us had any business entering it, but you have to. So, whatever. Hopefully you don't get in and, wait for a year where you're maybe hopefully a little bit better prepared. But
well, and I think honestly, I don't know, there's definitely some like universal stuff going on because like the last 2 years had I got in, there's no way I would have been able to train and there's no guarantee that I would have actually been able to like go do the race because I was in PA school. And for anybody that's familiar with PA school, it's like a 2-year crash course of like medicine that you would normally learn, over the course of 4 years in med school plus residency. Plus you have like rotations that go year round and you can't just be like, oh, hey, can I have time off to like go run this 100-mile race? Because they'll look at you and just kick you out of school probably. So yeah, like it wouldn't have happened for me, 2 years ago. And also, the runner that I am now, I'm not the runner that I was when I started ultra running. And I think like I've definitely earned a lot of knowledge and I've made a lot of mistakes and I'm like a lot more confident, in like knowing what I have to do and how to get there. So I think it's like, it was time. And I'm really, really thankful for the opportunity to do it. And I'm so excited. I'm scared. I'm very scared, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, I think it's natural.
Everyone's like, I'm so excited. And I'm like, yeah, me too. But
I'm
also petrified. I have to do the thing.
Right. So that's a good segue into talking a little bit about training.
Sure.
You are a physician assistant.
Correct.
I'm sure your hours can be kind of all over the place. Now, how do you manage your time with training? What does your training look like? And how has it been so far?
So it's been very different than ever. So I used to be a physical therapist. I worked in a hospital setting. I used to work like 4 days a week, had Fridays off, had the weekends off usually. And I could, my days were like over at 5 and I was living in West Virginia at the time and I could just go and run after work. Whereas now I work like 12.5-hour shifts, usually stacked like 3 days in a row. And during those days, like I cannot run. So it's been a really big shift actually in my training because all of the miles I'm getting are usually in like a 4-day span. And so, I used to run like 2 days and then take a day off and then like run a day and then take a day off and then do a long run. And now like all of my training has been high volume in like 3 or 4 day spurts. And it's been really hard to get used to because not only am I coming off of really long shifts at work, it kind of makes me feel like hungover and jet lagged, honestly, the next day. There's not a lot of time to like properly eat during the day when I'm working. It's pretty busy. So it's been hard, but I feel like it's also extra ultra training on top of everything. And then in April and March, I was working nights. So that was like another challenge that I had to kind of navigate because if anybody's ever worked nights, like it sucks and I'm not a night person. So yeah, It's been
Neither is Casey.
interesting.
No, Kim knows I am definitely not a night person.
Casey's not a night person.
No. I'm like, if you make me watch a movie at 9 p.m., I will be asleep at 10, like 9:10. I'm not that person. So, but I think like my life's been ultra training on top of ultra trainings. So
A lot of time on feet as a
yeah,
physician assistant, I imagine.
correct. Yeah, and just like making decisions when you're tired, like I don't know. It's definitely all gonna play into hopefully a successful race for me, but I'm exhausted. I'm really excited to get some rest.
We talk about burnout and also recovery. Those are two major, I guess, elements that we have to face, when training for ultra
Totally.
training, right? Do you have any advice on how you managed burnout during your time training for Western States? And also, obviously, you said that you're running 4 days in a row.
Mhm.
And you're probably running, super high miles. How
Yeah.
do you manage recovery?
I can't say it's been the best it's ever been. During this training block, like I've had a protein kind of recovery drink waiting for me and some like BCAAs. In terms of like recovering from the runs itself, that's been really, really helpful. I feel less sore, less draggy, I guess, if you will. So that's been like kind of a lifesaver. I don't know. I film roll when I can, and I try to like be kind of like gracious in my sleep cycle to myself. Like usually I'm like a person that likes to get up 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. and like knock out a run, but I've had to like kind of step back and be like, you need sleep. It's okay if you wake up at like 9 and start running at 11. Training for this race, it's been okay. When you're going to work, you're going to work. When you're off, those are your running days, and that's what needs to happen. And I haven't had much else going on besides that. I mean, I've gone to a few weddings and things like that, which also like kind of cut into a lot of, I mean, I still got my training done, but it was like, am I getting rest, So I've really had to like just kind of reframe how my life as I like used to be versus now, like knowing what I need to do. I've just like made myself sleep more when I felt like I needed to, and just been like, okay, well, if this run gets done at 4 p.m., that's what it is. And I think like if I wasn't so excited for the race itself, it would have, I mean, I can't say that like I haven't had like some periods of burnout because it's been really tough, honestly. But I think I'm just the excitement like around this race just like kept me going, and like knowing how much I've put in to get there and also how much I've already put in training wise. It's like, okay, like there's an end in sight, and it's a really awesome, like exciting event, and it's worth it. But I think like after Western States is over, I need to step back and just like take some rest time as well.
Yeah, that's pretty important, is to kind of reset it after you
Yeah.
kind of feel like, oh, I'm sick of running for now.
Right. Like last night I had a night run, and I was like, all I want to do is crawl into the back of the truck and go to sleep. And I went out for like a 9 p.m. night run on the Appalachian Trail, which in retrospect, it was a little too technical probably to be running at night, but it had to happen. So it got done. And also it's been like really nice to have some friends that are willing to like jump in, and some of my pacers, like I'll meet up with them to go run, or like my friend today, he drove up from Jersey to like do a run with me, or like at least like join me for the last hour of my run. He ran Laurel 70 last weekend, so he's like recovering, but it's like those little things I feel like that I've been sprinkling in that like you're like, okay, somebody's joining me, like that's exciting. And or I'm gonna let myself sleep a little bit and we're gonna get this done. So but it's been a rough road, not gonna lie.
In the training, you mentioned that you had a coach for this build up to Western States. Did that take a little bit of, I guess, mental pressure off of you of deciding what should I do in this lead up? How should I structure things?
Yes, 1,000,000%. That was like knowing what my work schedule was going to be like, and knowing that I only had like limited days that I could get runs in, and that wasn't my normal kind of flow for running. Those were all things that I was like, okay, like please somebody step in and do this for me. And also having a coach that has run Western States before, because I mean, you guys are very familiar with Western PA. Like it's humid, it's technical. The climbs are completely different than out west. Dry heat is completely different than humidity.
Thank you for saying that.
It is.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
So I think having somebody be able to kind of like know how to navigate those things for me was like, yes, like no brainer.
And did you say that you actually went out to California to look at the course? Did you run a little bit of the course already during your training?
I did. I ran about 65 to 70 miles of the course. So Western States normally hosts a Memorial Day training camp, and it's actually open to anybody. So as long as you like get a spot. So that's actually something really cool that I would recommend anybody to do. I already like told some of my friends, I'm like, let's go out next year, even if nobody is running it. It's a 3-day camp over Memorial Day, like I said, but I actually couldn't do it because of my work schedule. But conveniently, my friend was getting married in New Mexico 2 weeks beforehand. And I was like, whoa, I'm already out west. And then I could take one day off and have an entire week off from work. So I actually flew from New Mexico straight to Reno. And my mom met me out there. And one of my friends from Jackson Hole actually flew out there too. And we essentially like replicated the Western States training camp for Memorial Day, but like 2 weeks earlier. But I will say there was way more snow. It was really kind of rude. My mom dropped us off 4 miles outside of Robinson's Flat, and she said literally 5 minutes after we departed, post-holing through the snowplow came.
Oh, perfect timing, huh?
I was like, cool. Another roadblock, obstacle, another thing that you can take into the race and be like, I trained for this and it was harder. So yeah, that was really helpful. I think that like I did most of the big climbs besides the one out of Olympic Valley and in the first like 30 miles because that was like snow covered and you just don't really do it during the camp either. But I did everything from Robinson's Flat to the finish and I skipped like maybe like 5 miles in there. So because of like logistics, but yeah, really, really helpful.
Did that put your mind at ease a little bit, knowing that you ran part of the course? You're somewhat familiar now.
Yes, definitely. And also, talking about the heat, like, no, it wasn't as hot as it's going to be at Western States. Western States historically, in the canyons, it can get up to 110 degrees. I had like a 95 degree day, which I thought like I handled really well. I was practicing my cooling strategies. I have like arm sleeves and a hat and just an ice bandana. All those things really, really help. And just using the streams and everything to my advantage. And again, kind of like figuring out tips and tricks to make it more efficient. Like instead of taking my sleeves off, I started just rolling them down to like my wrists and just dipping them in and then they're wet and you don't have to like finagle with everything as you're running. So I think that was really, really helpful for me. And yeah, like seeing the big climbs and being like, okay, like they're really big, but also, like there's nothing about the course with like technicalities like that you would encounter like on East Coast running. I know like the first 30 miles there's some bogs and there's some rocks and things like that, but it's nothing that we haven't encountered. I've run in Utah, I've run in Wyoming, so I think it's going to be challenging. I'm not saying that, but it's at least things that I'm like familiar with. So yeah, definitely put my mind at ease.
Steep and hot is, Pennsylvania running. It's,
Right.
everything's just straight up, straight down. I think during the race or some point, there was someone, he was from out of state, and I was like, yeah, this is Pennsylvania switchbacks. You just go straight up, straight down. There's no, he's like, oh, I see that. That's, I didn't. Yeah, we don't do switchbacks here. Sorry.
You're like, welcome.
Yeah.
No switchback here. That's a good transition to like your game plan for race
Sure.
day. I was wondering about your nutrition plan, as well as some of the gear that you'll be using during the race.
Sure. Well, you guys have all heard about the whole spring energy debacle, and that was my source of fueling. And that was my initial plan going into Western States. I even started making my spreadsheet with the number of spring gels that I would need. And turns out it would probably be like ×4. So I'm no longer using spring
Now,
energy.
which spring gel flavor were you
The
using?
awesome sauce.
Oh,
The best
gosh.
flavor.
It's so good.
It's so good.
See, I've never tried that one.
It's,
Yeah, I've never tried it. I use another one. It's one of their meals. It has like 300
Oh, okay.
calories. Do you know what I'm talking about?
But does it have 310 calories or
Allegedly.
like 20?
Allegedly.
That's like
Allegedly.
47.
Test it.
Yeah. That was so that's
God, that was so disappointing.
yeah, and a remarkable difference in how I felt towards the end of Laurel Highlands this year to last year just by
Yeah.
switching out Spring Energy for
Really? I didn't know you used Spring Energy last year.
it's so good. Like
So good.
it's the best. There's nothing better.
It is. That's because it's applesauce.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like, it's applesauce, right? That's what it is.
It
Like,
is.
I was seriously disappointed just because I was. And I mean, I am in the business of sauces, so I understand how big of a deal it is to make an incorrect nutrition label.
Yeah.
I never dreamed someone would do that. Whether they did it allegedly on purpose or allegedly not, I don't know. But man, that stuff
Yeah.
is so good and so disappointing that it only has half.
Some of them tested at like 53 calories.
That's insane. That's
Yeah.
insane. Well, that's
Yeah.
good that came to light. Right?
Yes. No, totally.
Oh, it's a
I was like, well,
blessing.
it's better than it happened a month out and not like
Right,
afterwards and me like crashing like last year at Laurel, mile like 46.
Oh my
I was
God.
feeling fine. And then like I was like, oh, I've been feeling really, really well. Like I was so proud of myself for eating every half hour. And then I shit the bed and I was like, what is going on? But anyways, I can tolerate precision gels with like a big gulp of water. So that's something I've added. And also the Sport and Science. I have found some new flavors. So I've been using those. And then actually I tried a Never Second gel today on my run and it was really good.
Shout out Never Second. Yeah, that stuff is it's easy to open, which is good. It's all I really care about is the ease of which there's been some other companies I've been swearing at that, trying to rip it open didn't go well.
It's true. I had the passion fruit. It was really good.
Nice. And it's similar to the Sports and Science.
I still like the Sports and Science better. I feel like they go down a little better. I feel like the Never Second could actually be a really good mixer into like a margarita.
Just bring the tequila.
Yeah, no, but like, I mean, maybe at mile 90, like that's what I'm gonna want.
Right. Put a tequila in your pack,
I'll mention it to one of their athletes if I see them at mile 90.
Okay, well, yeah. In the daytime.
Yeah.
Besides that, I'm a huge fan of like Coca-Cola. Like I'll sometimes put that in my flask instead of water or electrolyte. I feel like it settles my stomach and it just tastes delicious. You just have to watch out when you bite open the valve because it just like explodes in your face. But yeah, and then real food. I like some croissants. I like potato chips. My mom makes a mean ramen when she crews me. So like that's going to be when I see my family at like, Forest Hill, I'll probably be slugging some ramen.
Is mom bringing pierogies out?
I'm hoping they'll just have them on course.
Always good when an aid station has pierogies. I'm a big fan.
Definitely.
Here, I know we have an aid station here at Burning River that has pierogies. I actually started the relay, my leg of the relay at that aid station.
So were you like pierogi loading before you even ran?
Well, before I started, I had to stop and get a pierogi. I was like,
was that the first year we did it?
No, that was this past year. The year.
Oh, okay, because you were slugging the first year. You were hurting a little bit. I was wondering if you ate too many pierogies.
I mean, it's like the pierogi race in Pittsburgh.
Heck yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, I could hammer some pierogies.
Agreed.
Now, gear, shoes. What are you planning to wear for shoes? You mentioned you're wearing arm sleeves and a bandana to help cooling you down.
Yep.
Anything else?
I have like a hat and sunglasses. I found that during the camp to be like really, really important, especially when you're in like the full sun. I switched up my pack to like a ultimate direction, like a vest, like not like their normal running packs, but they now have like almost like a compression vest, and I'm planning on using that for ice for cooling.
Okay.
Always important. Now, are you going to wear a bucket hat?
No, I'm sorry.
I've heard maybe bucket hats are making a comeback this year. I don't know.
I don't know. I know, Kim, you love them, and I know that's like the Western States look. I've been adamantly against the bucket hat look. They just remind me of like my childhood and like cringy outfits. But I will say I have been dabbling with like talking to my people and being like, should I just get a bucket hat? Because I know they are really good for the sun.
Right.
It also keeps the sun off the back of your neck, which is
Right.
really why I like to wear it in the sun and big
Yeah.
hat so that my neck is not just fried and I'm miserable and I can,
So like you might see me in a bucket hat. I don't know. It would take like a lot of convincing to get me to wear a bucket hat.
I think Casey can convince you.
Maybe you guys, if you guys score me a sick Hoka bucket hat, maybe I'll wear it. I don't know if I can shell out any money for it.
all right, I'll
It's
see
a
if I can,
principal thing.
we'll see if we can call in a couple favors.
Now, what type of shoes are you wearing?
So I actually recently transitioned to the Hoka Tectons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm not a person that can run in very squishy shoes because of like my past ankle injuries and surgeries, and I just like don't vibe with a lot of shoes. But the Tectons, I know a lot of people complain that they're too stiff, and I think they're perfect for me. I was an on Cloud Ultra through and through, but just with the miles I've been putting in, my feet were just getting a little too beat up. So I found like the Tectons they protect my feet, and I feel like I can like stay in them for a lot longer than the ons. Not that I don't love my ons, but I think for this race specifically, and when I had them out there, I feel like I know they're made for like the flowy trails. They can be very responsive on those trails, and I felt like very springy out there in them. So I think they're the go-to. I think I'll change them once. Whereas like with the ons, I think I would have to change them 4 times for my feet to be comfy-ish.
I mean, you wore the Tectons at Laurel Highlands, which I had to give you. Well, Kim did too, actually.
I did too. Yeah.
I need my ankle on the ground out there so I don't break my leg.
But they're not like that. They're pretty low profile. And like again, the whole like Hoka thing, I'm the last person that would be seen in Hokas, but I was like, these ones are actually like they're legit. And again, I need my ankles too. They've been through some things, and I felt like the Tectons are like they're very responsive, and they're not that far off the ground.
Right. And that's a really funny thing you say about the ankles. Like, well, I guess not funny, but when I did Gate to 8, I don't remember what shoe I was wearing, but it was a high profile shoe.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I rolled my ankle countless of times. My ankles were so sore. And then when I wore the Tectons coming into Laurel Highlands, past weekend, I didn't have any issues with my ankles.
Yeah.
It's not as much of ankles for me. It's as evidenced by the way I looked after the race. I tend to catch a toe on rocks and fall down. So
I actually did do that twice before I passed you. Before Seven Springs, I supermaned twice, like in the same manner. I just caught my toe, but
yeah, I was.
It is what it is.
I was pretty upset because I was moving really good, and I put down the fastest mile I had all day at like mile 22 or something.
Heck yeah.
And just ate it, and shoulder, knee, thigh.
I noticed the abrasion on the shoulder. You're like, Marianna, it's go time. And I was like, sir, I'm eating, first of all. I was like chugging a Coke and eating a sandwich in case he's like, let's go. And I was like, I'll catch you later. It's fine. I'm hungry.
And you did catch.
I was like 100-mile pace. Like, stop it.
It was fun. We had a good time out there.
We did have a great time.
I think half our crew probably fell. I fell too.
Okay. I figured get the falls, get like the mistakes out of the way, and then Western States, let's go.
So you're going to rock the Tectons. That's cool. I do like them. I wear them around here quite a bit where it's not rocky and I don't trip and fall as much. I like the purple color wave. That's what I've been going with. I have 3 pairs now, and they're all the purple ones. They're cute. Yeah, you did. You were fashionably rocking the purple Tectons. So
yes, it's all about being cute. Okay,
I know.
It's all about being cute.
And then I did find out when I was out, at the camp, or at my own camp, I'm definitely gonna wear white socks because I love like all different types of colors of socks, but white. Like my feet were getting a little too warm in any sort of dark sock. So
Now, one thing I specifically wanted to ask you, because you are a physician's assistant, so you have a much higher understanding of the human body than I do, which is very little. When it comes to hydration in the heat, I know, people have talked about where they just drink too much. I forget what it's called, but you drink too much water, so your salt balance is out.
you're hyponatremic, yes.
Thank you for saying that, because I didn't
You're
know
welcome.
how to say it. Appreciate that.
Of course.
Is that something that you will worry about at Western States?
So actually, that's been another thing that having a coach being able to guide me through. Did you know that your sodium, like your blood sodium levels, are genetic? So like some people are like on the lower end, maybe like closer to like 300, and then some people are on the higher end, like closer to 1,000. And that's how much sodium you need to replace per hour when you're like sweating. And it doesn't change. Like it doesn't change based on conditions. It doesn't change based on, like heat or whatever. And you find that out by doing a sweat test. So I did a sweat test and I'm like 778, so like closer to 800. So like I know how much I have to target per hour to replace. Been practicing this in training and I feel so much different than when I would just like, willy-nilly be like, oh yeah, here's a scoop of scratch, like here's 2 liters of water,
Yeah, and I think I think hydration is maybe even a little bit more important than the fueling of the race. Not that, not to say that the fueling isn't important, but
Totally.
it's so important and to get the sodium correct. And it seems like over the last few years, that's become a target of people. Oh, you did a sweat test, so you understood.
Yeah.
The importance
Casey,
of it.
you did one of those, right? You did a sweat test.
Yeah, me, Dave, Will, I think that was it. Yeah, we went up and did a sweat test. I have the results somewhere.
Clearly you haven't been using them.
Hey,
Clearly it wasn't a big takeaway.
yeah, I mean, let me see.
I also know I sweat a lot. So that was like the other piece to the puzzle, was kind of like weighing myself before and after runs and actually knowing how much fluid I have to replace, which is, it's not going to happen because it's just like too much, but I'm shooting close to like 60 to 80% of what I need.
Marianna, can you talk a little bit about what the sweat test is and like how do you do a sweat test and how were you able to access one?
So it's actually, you have to go get it done. And it's actually very similar to the test that they do for if they're testing for cystic fibrosis. It's called a pilocarpine sweat test. And actually Precision Hydration, if you go to their website, they have a bunch of not third party, I guess like just places that they do this test. And I was able to schedule one. It's not cheap, but I thought it was very worth what, the knowledge I gained from it. So they just put like 2 electrodes on your skin and just run like a current through. It doesn't hurt or anything. And they just kind of collect the sweat and they analyze it. And that just tells them the number, like your sodium number. And then that's what you can use to like calculate how much you lose an hour.
So I did find mine. I lose 901 milligrams of sodium per 32 ounces of sweat.
That's high.
So I need more salt then to replace it, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because then I noticed here in the email, which maybe I should have read below that when they sent it to me. During the race, they recommend Precision Hydration 1000, 1 packet or tablet per 16 ounces of water is what they recommend. So I do have a hydration plan.
I just found it.
It's been working well.
Yes. So going forward now, I forgot about that. David should have reminded me.
How rude.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's I do think it's important. Maybe I didn't take the action to show that I think that it's important, but now going forward, I believe that I will take the appropriate steps with precision hydration to make sure I'm hydrated.
Yeah. And like, again, going back to the whole spring debacle, like we were all under fueling. So that was like a huge piece. And then not knowing how much sodium you need to intake. Like those are two really, really big pieces, especially, if you're running longer than like a 50K, like that's what's going to kill you and shut you down. So I think having that knowledge is really, really important. So I think, Kim, to your point, like, going out running the course, that gave me a lot of confidence, but also having the confidence, knowing how many calories I need to replace, like how much sodium, and knowing that I'm actually meeting those numbers now, I'm like, okay, like all I just have to do is eat, which I'm pretty sick of doing and forcing myself to eat, but like that's what's going to get me to the finish line.
Right,
So,
right. That's the hardest part, but knowledge is power, man.
it is.
We've talked about that. We've had a couple nutritionists on, Amy, the dietitian, who we went over race fueling with and how important it is. And it's something that definitely comes up every episode we have with anyone who runs over, the half marathon distance, it seems.
Yeah.
Very important.
Go on, Casey.
You go ahead, Kim.
Okay. I was just going to ask, about your goals for Western States. Do you have a goal time that you want to meet? What kind of outcomes do you want to achieve here?
So I've ran my first 100-miler in like 24 something, like high 24s, but I didn't really specifically train for it. And it was 5 weeks after Laurel Highlands, after I raced it pretty hard. So I didn't really recover. Not ideal, like going into that. I think everybody like wants to shoot for that sub 24, which I think is doable if I have a good day. Obviously, overall goal, I would like to finish, but I think like I trained really hard and really well. And if I can be smart, I definitely would like to go under 24. And then how much under 24, I don't know. During the camp, like, on those trails, I could potentially finish in like 22, but I think my number one goal, I'm not going to worry about the time. It's going to take me how long it takes me. But I think if I focus on, section by section and just doing what I need to do, like being smart with my pace the first 30 miles, still staying smart with my pace until like Forest Hill, and then seeing what I have from Forest Hill on, like that's my goal, is to just like be smart, get there. I know I'm going to get beat up to some degree in the canyons, but my goal is to like not think about the heat, like think about doing everything that I need to do to beat the heat, but also not, just being like, what heat? I don't know what you're talking about. Kind of like the lottery, like just being like very aware of what I needed to get through it, but like not let it take me down.
So those are great goals to have. I'll be out there rooting for you. Are you using pacers?
I am. Actually, two guys that have done really well at Laurel. We became really good friends like over the course of like last year, and they're my two like running buddies. They're going to be pacing me, and then my best friend, who is now pregnant, she was going to pace the last 4, but now her husband's taking over those duties. He's paced me before, and he's great. So, and then I have just like my best friends coming out, and my parents and my sisters driving up from Salt Lake City. So it's like all the people that know me the best and also support me, in all my endeavors. So I think I like ultras for the fact that, you can reunite everybody and just be with your people, but like know that your people love each other too and can hang and chill and still like have fun without you. I actually, like when I'm running, I'm like, oh, I want to be hanging out with everybody, but you can't do that. You have a job to do, but yeah, it's going to be a really great crew. And I mean, you've met my mom.
Yep. Wonderful lady.
Great. So she's been crewing me forever and knows what I need and knows what to say to me. She's not like a mom that's going to coddle me. Like she knows when I'm really not doing well, but she also knows like she just needs to be like, give me some tough love, which I don't require a lot of, but and I think just like knowing like you're out there, you're like, I have the privilege. I'm the only person from Western PA like running this thing. Like I am so freaking stoked. Like no excuses. Let's go.
You are our Yinzer representative out there, Marianna.
I am. And the first thing that I ordered when I found out I got in was body glitter. And so there's going to be a lot of glitter.
Yes. All about the body glitter.
Gotta have the body glitter. But I'm glad you mentioned like having fun with your crew, because that's, Kim is like I said, one of my very good friends, and we have a bunch of good friends that go out and
Yeah.
enjoy races together, and just out hanging out, supporting each other, maybe drinking a few beers before or
course.
after, never hurts anyone. But that's why we do it, for the joy of running and just hanging out with friends.
And I think ultra running or just, trail running, we have the perception, or a lot of people have the perception that, it's a very solo, individualized sport. But honestly, especially when you're running ultras, it's, it's definitely a team effort. You have to have that support. It unifies everybody. It just, it's just a positive spirit, going into these races, and also, just supporting one another.
100%. Yeah. It's the best.
Yeah, and you get to meet so many cool people, because you talk to people on the trails. It's not like the marathon where you're just blasting from go to end, and you get to, hang out. And I know that people like to make fun of us for hiking, calling it walking, but
whatever.
Hey, whatever. Screw those guys. But we appreciate your time. I know you've been busy, especially being a PA. We certainly appreciate your time. Kim, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us here and assist me.
No, thanks for having me. This was great. And Marianna, we're definitely going to be rooting for you. We'll be tracking you, and, best of luck out there.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited. And I loved meeting you guys in person, and, then seeing you guys at Laurel. And I hope we can have more hangouts in person, because you guys are great.
Heck yeah, that's what we go for. We go for great is what we do.
Love it.
And we'll let you know if we travel for any other races, because it looks like you and your crew is always up to travel. So
heck yeah.
More people, more fun. So thank you very much for your time, and best of luck out there. I'll see if I can get you a bucket hat.
All right, sounds good. I'm holding you to it.
All right.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Marianna.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Hobby Jogger. We hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. And if you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support keeps us moving forward. Until next time, keep those feet moving and enjoy the miles.